screen to do the presentation. I'm going to share my screen in a second, but I want to get to know everybody before I kind of get started. We have a small group here, so which is really fantastic. It gives us the opportunity to be pretty interactive with what it is that we're doing today. Hope you've grabbed your cup of coffee. This is my second meeting today, so I have my coffee with me. So whatever your drink of choice is, glass of wine, it's midday already, you can grab it, and let's get started. But where do we have people calling from? So let's use the chat box. Just type in the chat box. I want to see where we have people coming in from. I know we see a few people. It's an interactive session, so nobody be shy here. Just type in the chat box. Where are you joining us from today? Vidalster, Blakely, okay. GA, okay. So when we say GA, we're talking about the states, right? Georgia, okay, Georgia, you guys, Georgia, you are on our mind these days. Georgia, you are on our minds. So I guess GA was the US. You guys are on our minds for sure. You're big on the news, and it's every time I hear Georgia, it reminds me of this song by I think Michael Bolton, Georgia. Awesome. I also want to get a feel, since we have a pretty cozy group, the best thing would be to kind of ensure that I'm tailoring this presentation to meet the needs of the folks here. So tell me a little bit about you. What do you do? So what do you currently do, and what would you like to get out of this session? Looking on there, waiting for some people to probably type in case you thought you were going to come in and listen. I can see, you're going to be participating today. So what do you do? What would you like to get out of this session? Just type it in the chat box. Waiting to read get some feedback from people.
Can I just directly speak?
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm working with a school board currently, so I'm doing a program that helps us learn about ourselves, our skill, what is our strength and weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope, like, when this program is done, like that, when I go back to school in September, either college or university, I'll have a clear mind on what I want to be doing in the future, because I still don't know.
Okay.
Like I can't decide between nursing or teaching, because I feel like those are two great career and they're very like for people. So yeah, and I hope with this session, like, I'll just learn how to work better in a group environment, and also like if you have a disagreement with somebody, like how can you like handle it without like losing your patience or your cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Siri. Is that I hope I pronounced your name well. Siri?
No, Siri.
Siri. Thank you. Thank
no
you.
Problem. No
I
problem.
appreciate that. And I read from Sydney, is a clinical mental health counseling graduate student looking for more leadership skills. Awesome. Zai, I'm a sophomore at Vidalster State University, major in sociology. I studied sociology as my A-levels, and I absolutely love sociology. So kudos to you there for doing it full time. Love sociology. I love it. You can see the smile on my face when I think about my sociology in my A-levels. That was so cool. You hope to get tools on how to be a successful leader in the future, which is licensed clinical social work. Awesome. Psychology student from India. I'm looking to gain leadership knowledge, and this is a great opportunity to hear you speak. Thank you, Nivera. I appreciate you. Okay, awesome. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. And like I mentioned, this is an interactive discussion. This is Saturday. We're calling from different areas, but this is Saturday. So we're going to have it's going to be relaxed. Let's get to know each other and let's get to meet each other's needs. So if you see where I'm teaching something and you feel, how can I apply that to clinical social work? How can I apply that to mental health counseling? How can I apply that to whatever I'm doing? You know, Yvonne, help me get more specific. I want you to share that with me. Just put it in the chat box. Like I said, it's an interactive session. We're not going to be all about being formal today. I want us to make sure that as we've come in today to this session, we get something out of it that we can say, this is a Saturday afternoon or morning or evening well spent, you know, in terms of what it is that I'm trying to achieve. So please, you know, make sure you do that. A little bit about me. I'm passionate about change management. I'm passionate about change leadership. And why is that? Mariam introduced me already as a change management strategist and author. Yes, those are those few things, but about me. But what's more important to me is my change leadership advocacy. And that's where we're going to talk about some of it today. But just looking at my background, it started off 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. Like some of you, I graduated from college and I found out my first major job. You know how you're excited. Okay, I studied business, IT, and marketing in university. I came out with a 2-1. I just want to see how I can use this. You know, I want to use what I've studied. I want to make a difference. And I got this first major job and it was exciting, a chance to really do what I wanted to do. And I got in there and not long after that, I got called into this office and I got made redundant. I was told your job no longer exists because it had been a merger. This was the .com boom. Everybody was buying every other company. Everybody wanted to get into the .com boom, get online. And the company I was working for had been bought over. And the department I was moving to another state, you know, and they already had a whole team there, so they didn't need me. But that was a wake-up call to tell me that, Yvonne, you are responsible for your career. You know, the world was beginning to change. At that time, we thought it was fast. I don't know anybody here remembers the .com boom, but I've definitely aged myself 20 years ago from when I graduated from university. But that .com boom, everything was happening so fast. If we thought it was fast then, it's even faster now. And slowly and steadily, you know, through my career, I started to see that all those things like HR, you know, prior to that time, you had this picture that you would go into an organization and your manager, your boss, and HR would take care of you. And, you know, they would help you figure out how you navigate your career and become the best version of yourself and rise in your career. Nothing like that. All those things like permanent jobs was becoming more or less a thing of the past, you know. And through the years, as I navigated through my career and got into change management, I started to find that what were some of the issues that some organizations were successful, some organizations weren't successful? What were some of the issues? Some projects were successful and some projects weren't successful. And I found that it came down to change leadership. And slowly we're beginning to see that having the ability to lead and drive change, whether in your personal life, whether in your professional life, whether in your career, in your organization, is fast becoming a critical skill. It is no longer a skill that you feel it's reserved for the select few. It's reserved for the people who have the title as leaders or managers. I was beginning to see it was something that was critical across board. And even what was becoming more critical was that, what is the number one thing? And you can type it there in the box because I'm looking at the chat box as I speak. What is the number one thing you think happens when projects don't succeed in organizations or initiatives fail? There's a new project and it doesn't succeed. What's the one thing that you think happens in the organization? Type in there. So while you're typing there, I'm welcoming Sandra. She's a founder of a nonprofit organization that aims to educate kids and youth about pride of being Afro-descendant background. Hope to learn more about change leadership and how to navigate a non-for-profit in this changing world. Awesome. Welcome, Sandra. So ladies, tell me, what's the number one thing you think happens when projects don't succeed in organizations, when initiatives fail, when something you're working for doesn't happen. There's no right or wrong answer, but I just want to say, what do you think happens? Is anybody typing? Okay. I'm not getting any answers here, or maybe we're still typing. You know, people panic, people lose confidence. Yes, exactly. So, and even we have some nonprofit here, or even, you know, we have some people with the background, social work and everything. Some of the things that I began to see about when projects don't succeed is, first of all, people lose their jobs. People are let go from their jobs. People, like you said, lose confidence. They panic. There's It starts to impact the well-being of employees in organization. And then when organizations don't succeed and they start to let people go and organizations fail, what is the bigger impact? The bigger impact is the community. The community suffers. You now see there's more unemployment. Organizations don't even have the social benefits or community benefits where organizations contribute to the community projects. That begins to go. The economy begins to change when organizations begin to fail. So there was that ripple effect. So that's part of what has led to my social advocacy around change leadership, and why change leadership is very key and important. So I'm going to share a presentation. Let me just see if I can make this happen. I tried sharing it earlier. Okay. Let me get back to my screen and see. Let me just share that screen so I can see it work. So give me a second, people. I'm just going to share my screen. There's something not right about this, but I will be with you guys in a second. Okay, do you see my screen? Yes, you should be able to see my screen right now. Okay, so today we're going to talk about developing change leadership, developing your skills as a change leader in your industry, and why it's important. Why is something like this becoming important? Why do you need to act now? You know, we will talk through that, talk about, you know, the things about how the future of work is changing, and the future of work is driving the kind of skills that we need to be able to be more relevant as we move forward. We're going to talk about how organizations are changing, and the structure is requiring that we become change leaders. And even also how the pandemic has really changed things. Why change leadership is now more important in today's business environment than ever. One of the things we have is organizations are evolving. Before, we had that structure in our organizations whereby it's hierarchical. You know, you have somewhat of this. Let me see if you no back. You had the structure where it was a little bit more hierarchical, where you had somebody at the top, and then you had the layers and people reporting, very structured. But now look at the different ways, the different structures of organizations. Organizations are becoming flatter. So before, where you had the opportunity to say that you do the work and your boss or your CEO has to make the decision, that is no longer always the case. Because things are happening very fast, change is happening at a very fast pace. Now we're more reliant on every person in their individual role, regardless of if you have position or title. You're now more required to make decisions in your role. And those are the kind of things that really set you apart. There's a free masterclass that I can share the link with Miriam at the end of it, and I go into more detail in terms of what we're learning here today. Is in the past, you will find that one of the things that differentiated me in my career is the ability that I could make decisions like that. You know, if there was something on my table, I could make the decision. And that differentiated me from my peers, because when you can make a decision very quickly and you say, this is changing very quickly, what do I need to do? What do I need to make this thing a success? Guess what happens? You now become, there's a light upon you. Like, you now become critical in your organization. You become valuable in your organization. Your boss now wants to keep you in that role. So even sometimes if there's no work for you to do, your boss knows that. If even somebody wants to say, oh, we need to let some people go because we don't have the funds anymore, we need to restructure. Who will they keep? Your boss is likely to keep you if you make an impact in your organization. And how can you make an impact in your organization? Is by having certain change leadership skills that we're going to talk about today. Organizations now no longer require that your boss makes all the decision. You need to be able to show impact in whichever role it is. Because of the flatter organizational structures, it means that people now have more responsibilities in their job function to lead and drive change. People have the responsibility of their task to make things happen. No longer is it, oh, I just do my own small portion of the job and I send it to the next person, they do their own small portion, and the next person does their own small portion. Now, you have that responsibility to lead and drive change. You have responsibility for your task. You have responsibility to work with other people. You have the responsibility to make change happen. You have the responsibility to make decisions. Those are the kind of changes that you're seeing in organizations, and it's making change leadership more and more important. Today, we're faced with a new normal. I don't want to even say before today, where we see what we're calling the new normal, and the pandemic has thrown everything into topsy-turvy. You know, things may have seemed straightforward. So if you look at this image here, you can see before maybe the car would have gone in the left direction, whereby, okay, yes, you know, it seems pretty straightforward. All we need to do is do A, B, C, and, you know, the what is required to happen will happen. But now we're being faced with what is considered the new normal. And what I keep on saying is that after the new normal, there's going to be a new normal. What are some of the things that we think about when we say the new normal? Things like remote working. Things like there's a big trend in how organizations are recruiting people. There's a big trend in before, if Miriam was doing this program, Miriam, what would you do? You'd probably be having it in person. Most of the events that were happening were in person, but now look at us. We're communicating on Zoom. It's become normal. You know, we have somebody from India that is able to join. We have people from Georgia who are joining this call. We have people from around the world who are joining on this call. That is what the new normal means. The new normal means that we are changing the way we do things, and those things that seemed the exception before are becoming normal in the way we do things. What does that mean for your industry? What does that mean for non-profits? What does that mean for the area of social work? What does that mean for the global barriers that are being broken down? So those are the kind of things you need to start thinking around you, that what does this new normal mean for me? There's some people who are saying, oh, I cannot wait for 2020 to be over, 2021, please come. And you know the question that somebody asked when they said, I can't wait for 2020 to be over, let 2021 come. Someone said, what do you think is going to come in 2021? Let's even do a poll. How many people here had dreams and goals for 2020, and how are you feeling about your goals? You know, type in there the goals that you had set for 2020. Do you feel you have achieved them? Because we just have one more month to the end of the year. So I want to see some comments there. How are you feeling about 2020? Do you feel 2020 has been a great year? Are you looking forward to 2021? Have you achieved the goals you set out for 2020?
Could I speak?
Yes.
Okay, so I think I had way less goals for this year. I think I just was looking at it as, like you were saying, the norm. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to school for because this started in the spring. I said, okay, I had plans on building my social life better. I had plans on making more friends, getting involved more, networking more, having a little bit more fun. And then things just got abruptly halted. And then I think, in a way, this year has not been great for me, but the pandemic kind of helped me figure out where I want to go. Because before, I didn't really have a set plan. It was like, okay, I was a nursing major. But then I realized, okay, nursing isn't for me. I just didn't have a love for it. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to change to sociology. Because that's where my original passion lied. Like, that would make me love freshman year so much, that class. And so I was like, okay, I'm going into my sophomore year. I need to make some changes. So I think the pandemic helped me to make changes, and it helped me to get on track. When before I was kind of just trying to figure it out.
Yes, I love that. What I love about it is that what the pandemic also created for people was create that mental shift. So sometimes we're like just going on the path ahead, like you see in this, it's just easy to go straight on and keep on going. And we're almost in, what's that mode? We're almost like in a remote control mode, or we're almost in, we just do it. It's because it just feels right. But Zaya, I really love your example that it made you stop and think, so whether we realize it or not, what the pandemic has done for a lot of us is make us reassess our lives and think, are we on the right path? Do I have to really do things this way? Because the shift it created mentally for a lot of us and a lot of organizations is that things don't always have to be the same way. There's this example of an organization that I know very well. And in the organization, they were thinking of, we have so many office buildings around. And, they wanted to figure out, should we renew the lease on this building? Should we start to get a few people to think about working from home? And when they did a poll out, a survey to ask people how they felt about it, a few people were like, I really like to come into work. I need my office space. I need this. There was some pushback with having to let that office building go. And right in the middle of when that decision was being made, the pandemic struck and everybody had to work from home all of a sudden. What do you think that did for that decision? Do you think they renewed their lease? No, they didn't renew the lease, and they don't have any plans on renewing the lease. Their plans is people are going to be working from home. So you can see what that shift means for people. When we look at, if anybody's familiar with Toronto, we have the downtown Toronto. So you hear that people are talking about, how property prices are going down, the leases are going down. There's a big discount on getting an apartment. But that's only happening in one small section of downtown Toronto, where there was a cluster of office buildings. If you go outside of Toronto to the suburbs, you find that property prices are high. Rental prices are high. To lease a place is high. The property prices just keep on going higher and higher because it has changed people's lifestyle. People are now no longer focused on, designing their lives and their professions and their careers around their work or having to work in a certain location. Now people are moving to the suburbs because they know I can work from home. Even if I live in Toronto, I can do a job that is based in the US. Even if I live in India, I can do a job that is based in Canada. Even if I live in Canada, I can do a job that is based in Africa. That is what shift has created. And that's what I need also on this call today to start to think of is, how can we shift our mindsets? How can we shift our mind to say, what do I really want to do, as opposed to what do I have to do? Because the younger we are, and even if the older we are, there is no right time to say, because I'm this old, I can't change my career, and because I'm this young, I can't change my career. But once you're just graduating from university, what better way or opportunity you have to think of, let me make the right or best decisions, or let me explore my curiosity and my path right now while I still have the opportunity. Because once you start having the mortgage, once you start having the kids, once you start, buying or getting all the credit and all of those, you start to feel tied into whatever job it is. And it restricts you to wanting to explore other opportunities that are out there. And what the pandemic has also created for us is people are more forgiving. It's created an opportunity for people to experiment into what else can I do? What else should I be doing? And people are more open to people making mistakes. If you make mistakes, people are like, okay, it's a pandemic. So when we all started like video conferencing or doing certain things, we get on and people say, oh, it's, you know, we're all still learning. It kind of like resets the playing field for all of us to say, let's learn together. Let's rebuild together. So now is a great opportunity for us to start rethinking how we want to do things. And the end is not in sight. You know, depending on where you are, we've all heard about it. We're all going through a second wave of the pandemic, and we don't know what next year is going to look like. But if you can make the best of this year, you're sure as sure as the sun rises and the rain falls and the rainbow comes out, if you can make the best of this year, you can make the best of, you know, the years to come. But we are now in a time where things are changing very quickly and nothing is certain. And we need to be able to respond to the changes as quickly as possible. Sandra says, despite the challenge, it's been a great year for me. I've discovered more about myself and my resilience. More than ever, I refuse to postpone things in an uncertain tomorrow. That's really great. Ray said it. I know you pronounced your name for me, so I hope I got it right. I did some of goals for 2020 and for 2021. I decided to go hard on my goals and dreams. That's fantastic. Achieved my goals. It was a productive year and very different from Sydney, and that is awesome. And for me, 2020 has been a great year. Oh my God, 2020 has been awesome. I'm even almost scared to say that out loud. But 2020 has been an awesome, and I get scared to say it out loud because I know for so many people it hasn't been so great. But when I say it was great, not to say things didn't happen to me. Before, part of my business is we run conferences and we run master classes, and these are in-person events. And we had a yearly conference where we bring in over 200 people. It was slated to run in May. We had our master classes that was already scheduled, slated to run in April. That's about 50 people. And all of a sudden in March, we had to start to postpone everything. We had another global summit that was going to be international, that was going to run in other part of Edmonton for September. All that was rescheduled, canceled, and pushed to 2021. So I can choose to focus on saying that, oh gosh, 2020 was a bad year for me. But no, what I did was pivot. And that's very important, that if things are not happening how you expect it to happen, the way the business environment is now with changing organizations, with the future of work, which we're going to go into next, with the new normal, you have to be able to learn to respond to change quickly. You have to learn to be able to pivot and move instead of just sitting where you are and saying, I'm waiting for the pandemic to be over. I'm waiting for things to return to normal. That's not an option to wait for things to return to normal. And then the next slide I'm going to go to. The future of work is something that we also want to talk about. What is the future of work? In very simple terms, the future of work is that how we do work, the tools we work with, where we work, and the types of jobs we have are now being driven by technology such as AI and robotics. Before, it was all about the dot-com boom, but now it's AI and robotics. So when we look at the example of a future of work, before, something like to do an X-ray, a cancer X-ray patient would need 5 days to be able to do that X-ray and get the results. With AI right now, what's happening? With AI, those results can be done, those X-ray results can be done in 2 hours. So what does that do for the X-ray technician or lab technician who that was their responsibility? Their job is changing. They're no longer going to do things the same way. Even for the people who do social work, for instance, here I'm familiar with a service whereby it's all about mental health, social work here. They're now having to navigate, there's something called the Great Big White Wall, whereby through technology, how do they do their social work to support individuals? Because before it had to be going into the person's home, and we still have to sometimes go into their homes. But there's other ways that technology is supporting this. Or there were some countries that had to start to use robots because there was such there's a shortage of nurses. So you would find the robots were helping to dispense drugs. So what does AI, what does robotics, what does fourth industrial technologies mean for your job? You need to start to think about what it means and who you are and how you do our work. So we talk about how we do our work. Is it through technology? Is it through digital technology? Is it going in person to meet our clients? What tools do we work with? What are the kind of tools we need to work with? Are we having to go into the office? Are we working from home? Are we working in different locations and serving other locations? Now there are jobs that exist on how to train robots. There are jobs that exist on how to train AI. There are data types of jobs. So all of these are really changing the way we work, how we work, where we need to work, and what types of jobs we really need to work in. So this is some of the things that I need you to start to think of. Is your industry changing? And how is your industry changing? Are you cognizant of that? Are you reading the handwriting on the wall? What's the handwriting in your wall? One of the books that I really need you to go read and check it out, one of my favorite books on personal change and professional changes, Who Moved My Cheese? Has anybody heard of that book or read that book? Who Moved My Cheese? Go read that book. That book is, it tells us about our ability and our refusal to want to change and why we need to change. You know, it talks about 4 characters. You have him and her, and in it, and you know, the mice and as well as the humans and how they respond to change. So check that book out. Who Moved My Cheese? And it's very simple and easy to read. So in some situations, this is even some stats that I want to share with you that talks about how remote working is changing things. Post-COVID, what's going to happen? Pre-COVID, you were looking at 30% of people working from home. Now, these statistics were brought out months ago, around about May. But now it's even changing. This was before you had organizations that were saying everybody work from home now. The likes of Microsoft, the likes of Twitter, the likes of Shopify, all of those organizations that are saying, you know, going forward, it's now a work from home. And we thought about it was 48% statistics. Now that period is rising. Now that people are required to work from home, does that create more opportunities for the kind of jobs you could do? Did you think that your job was limited to location, to say, oh, those type of jobs don't exist in India, those types of jobs don't exist in Georgia, those type of jobs don't exist in Toronto? What does that mean for you now and your career? Now, are there more opportunities for you? Janine, that's very interesting. You say, I personally believe AI and robotics are negatively impacting human relations. Yes, they are. And also it's improving it. So it depends on what you want to see, whether you want to see the glass half full or whether you want to see it half empty, or whether you just want to see it as in, I have water in my glass and I'm going to make the most of the water in my glass. So yes, there's that talk where a lot of people have said that AI and robotics are taking away jobs. Yes, AI and robotics make it difficult for people to want to communicate. But think back to even the pandemic that we have now. The ability of AI and robotics has also increased the ability to be able to make things like the vaccine quickly available than ever before. The use of AI and robotics has helped with things like us having all of these technologies to be able to communicate and connect. Think back to when there was the Spanish flu. Before that, people did, if you were, mental health was worse, because people didn't have any way to communicate with each other. Think now to when they're saying lockdown, stay at home, but because we have things like drones, areas where before they would not have been able to deliver goods and services, you can use a drone to go to a very remote area to go deliver goods and services. Think back to some surgeries that used to be so invasive and critical that they would have to slice open somebody fully in order to be able to make that surgery happen. But now with AI, robotics, technology, very non-invasive, they can just make a small incision, put something in through you, and it goes and it searches for the thing and it fixes you from inside. Think about how AI and technology has been able to fight and help cancer. So we have to ask ourselves from what perspective. Yes, technology is changing our mental health. It's making it that you go online and they already know everything about you, and it's making you shop a little bit more. Yes, it has some things that it's taking away the way we connect with people, but it's also helping to connect us a little bit more, especially when we live in such a global world right now, whereby I might be here on my birthday. I had in May, I could not, that was in the thick of lockdown, and we weren't even allowed to meet people. But I had the best birthday ever, because it made me think, oh my gosh, I can actually celebrate my birthday with people who live in England. With my family, my brothers and his kids and everything, they joined us from England by Zoom, and they were like, why have we never done this before? Why was it not acceptable that we could just get on technology to do things? So it has some impact, no doubt about it, and I agree with you, Janine, but it also is creating jobs. It's creating new jobs. It's taking away jobs, but it's creating new jobs. There are going to be much, much more jobs created than even jobs lost, but there will be jobs lost. But the question is now, are you reskilling? Are you adapting? Are you learning the new skills that will make you relevant in the new future of work? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. When we look at organizations, what they're now saying is that the critical skills, before you had maybe employees in strategic roles, employees in critical work roles, employees with critical skills. Now organizations are beginning to define what is critical. What are the key skills they need in their organizations? So that all organizations are trying to find the sweet spot. So it's no longer about how well you do your work in a technical manner. Because if, for instance, your job was data entry and you could type how many words per minute, you could go into Excel and data entry, they would give you a sheet of paper and you would go through the sheet of paper and you would say, how can I quickly type all of this in a way? Data input jobs are gone, because guess what? With AI in Excel, you can scan a document that has all of this data, you scan it, it gets into the computer, and it's text. So is it really about how fast you can type? Is it about how well you can calculate? Or is it about how well you interact with people, the skills, the critical thinking type of skills, the non-cognitive skills you need to interact with others? This, for 2020, the skills for the future of work, this is how we look like. Some things have always been important, but it shows what was happening in 2008, what was becoming more important in 2022, and you look out there, what are some of the skills? You're looking at active learning strategy, creativity, critical thinking and analysis, complex problem solving, leadership and social influence, emotional intelligence, problem solving, systems analysis and evaluation. Those are some of the things that are becoming more important. So you need to start to think. Before it was how well do we manage personnel. Now it's how well do we lead. So again, take a step back, read the writing on the wall, go back to your industry and think, what are the skills that are important in my own industry? How is my industry changing? What are the trends in my industries? What are some of the steps you can take now? The steps is to begin to develop your change leadership competencies. Like we saw, the skills are changing. Change leadership skills are becoming more important. Skills such as emotional intelligence, which is a change leadership skill, is becoming more important. You need to start to think, how can I be proactive? Are you waiting until somebody tells you what needs to be done? Are you waiting until your career advisor tells you what needs to be done? Are you waiting for a manager to tell you what needs to be done? Are you waiting for somebody else, or are you taking the onus on yourself to say, what skills do I need to develop for myself so that I am relevant in my industry? What are the things that are important in my industry? How do I need to change my skills? Some things will still remain, but what are some of the new things that are happening? Are you going to push against change, or are you going to be responsive to change? Let's think about a few examples, the likes of IBM. Who here remember or knows, again, on the way I'm aging myself, do you know, IBM used to be the #1 computer producer. IBM was one of the people that started what we call personal computing. When we talk about desktops and laptops, where are they now? IBM refused to change. They said, not me, it doesn't really matter to me. Or who remembers BBM or BlackBerry? When BlackBerry was a thing, when BlackBerry was leading when it came to phones. Who remembers things like Nokia? Who remembers Ericsson phones? When phones first came out, it was about having a Nokia phone and Ericsson phone. Now, Nokia, Ericsson, like where? But those organizations are examples of people that were refused to change. People that felt, no, people are going to love our products. There's no way they want anything else. They love our products like it is. Who is going to buy an iPhone for $200? Now people are buying iPhones for $1,000. And is that the same way that you're thinking about your career? Oh, they're always going to need this certain type of skill. Oh, you will always want accountants. Oh, you will always want lawyers. Oh, you will always want doctors. Yes, you will want those people, but how are their roles changing? So before, you needed a doctor that could cut somebody open. So how long you had to take years and years to learn and get experience to do that. Now, some of the things those doctors did, all you have to do is learn how well to use the technology to be able to make it happen. Now, with lawyers, you know, there's AI that supports, if you have a case, you just put the information in and it's able to pull out the information to tell you how to go about the case. Before, you had to read all these journals, you had to find precedents. That's why you had legal analysts, legal researchers. When somebody went into the law field, the first thing would be you would have to help with the research, do this, climb up the ladder. But now all that ladder has been shortened because AI can do all of those things that they needed people to do. What does that mean for the legal field? How is that changing the way they do things? Now, as a lawyer, it's your ability to be able to manage complex cases as opposed to very basic cases that you would think you needed a lawyer for. So the industry is changing. How are you being proactive to learn about what's happening in your industry? What are you reading? Who are you socializing with? What networks do you belong to? How are you being responsive to change? How are you being adaptable to change? You need to start to focus on your non-technical skills. It's no longer how well you can do something technically, it's how well you can do it in a non-technical way, your cognitive skills, how well you can lead change. When I teach on change leadership, I have a program out there on change leadership. We go through 10 competencies that are focused on change leadership skills, from emotional intelligence, empathy, communication, about raising your visibility. We go through all of those skills that require you, those non-technical skills that you need to be able to relate with other people. So now it's how well you can get other people to do things, how well you can lead your colleagues. So let's get our heads away from thinking about leadership as management. So when we think about management, we think about we have to be in the position, we have to have the role, we have to have the title. Leadership now is how well do you interact with your colleagues? How well are you able to lead up and lead your boss? How well can you lead even those people reporting to you? So leadership is 360. How well can you lead yourself first? And that is what it's been, when you go into organizations, they're looking for to help you stand apart. Because everything is new, everything is changing. So it's how well you can come into a situation and make it happen. Even think about how you're thinking when we're thinking creativity and critical thinking. Sometimes we're very linear in the way we think. In leadership, you have to be non-linear in your thinking and think about how different things can happen. I recently posted on my wall, there's this, all this quizzes where they say, how many numbers do you see? I wish I had that to share with you. It was like, how many numbers do you see? I think I'm going to look for that thing to share if we have some more time at the end. And there were 7 clear numbers in terms of the image, in terms of what people could see. But you saw people coming up with 8, 9, 10. And I had to say to people, where are you seeing 10 numbers or 10 numbers? And it just goes to show the diversity in thought and in mind in terms of how people were able to see different things, how they were able to look differently. And I would leave some time to come up with that, to be able to show it. But if you're thinking in a linear way, you think this has to happen, then this happened, and this happens. If that was how people were thinking, I don't know that would be able to come up with a vaccine now. You have to be able to think linearly in an analytical way, but you have to be able to think in a non-linear way to say, how do I think outside of the box to make things happen? That's what's going to set you apart on your role. When I got various promotions, 3 promotions in the span of maybe 2 years, it wasn't because I was doing my job well, because there was people who did the job better than me in terms of being able to maybe be a better project manager, be a better business analyst. But it was how I stood out in making those non-technical decisions, making those cognitive decisions, helping that client to be able to stand out. It wasn't about how well I was able to write my project plan. It was how well I was able to implement that project plan and overcome people barriers. People would say, I'd say, oh, maybe Mary, do this, Mary, let's do this. Oh, this, she'll say, this isn't there. We can't do this. We have to wait for the boss to make the decision. And I'll say, well, can we do things this way, turn things around, do this? And you know what? Right now, team is not available. Let's just go right ahead and make it happen. She'll say, oh, no, I'm not sure. We really need sign off from the team. I'll say, you know what? Just go ahead and do it. I take full responsibility for it. Let's just do it this way. Let's go with this and we'll make it happen. We go with that and we make it happen. And then we see results because we're able to respond very quickly while team wasn't around to make that decision. And it got us the best results. So next time when team comes back and he wants to think, who do I want to put in charge? He's going to want to put Yvonne in charge because he knows that Yvonne has the ability to make things happen even when I'm not around. He's not going to want to wait for Mary to make things happen because Mary is just going to sit down and wait until team comes back before things happen. And what's happening in this environment? We miss out on opportunities because guess what? The change is not waiting for anybody. The change is happening. It's really whether you want to get on board on the change or you just get off and it keeps on moving ahead. So in that example I gave you, which is it's a true life example, was it how well Mary knew how to write the project plan, or was it how well Yvonne could use her non-technical skills to be able to execute on what needed to happen? What made the difference? And that's what's happening today. It's no longer that situation. We don't know what's happening. Look at the pandemic. I keep on coming to pandemic because we're living the pandemic now. The pandemic is something that has just come out of the blue, and nobody has a manual on how best to deal with the COVID. The people who are dealing with the COVID it's not because they have a rule book, it's just because they're using skills that are leadership based to say, how well do I make the best decision for right now? You need to stand out with your personal brand. So you need to step up and step into your authenticity. When you have 100 people applying for the same roles, 100 people who came out of the same university, 100 people who qualified with a first, how do you stand out in your role? How do you stand out in your role? And that's where your personal brand comes into play. Your personal brand allows you to able to differentiate yourself. whatever field you find yourself, are you doing things like writing thought leadership articles? Are you helping and supporting people? Are you going above and beyond to make things happen? So one way you can stand out with your personal brand is even on LinkedIn. LinkedIn may be applied to you depending on your social brand, but there might be other areas that you can stand out in this social world. There are opportunities that I get that come out of the ability for me to be able to build my brand. And you know what? The last thing I want to hear anybody say is, I don't have a brand. I'm not into personal branding. Guess what? You have a brand, but you're not in control of your brand. Everybody has a brand. Your brand is essentially how people see you and view you. So you have two options. You either take control of your brand and be intentional about how you position yourself for people to see you, or you let the world dictate how they want to see you. So how you become intentional about how you position yourself, how you appear out there is very critical. And you see there, I say with authenticity. Let me give you an example that some of you may love or some people may not love. You know, very political. They say don't talk politics, but right now in this world where we are, we're talking politics. Trump. Like it or not, Trump has a brand. And like it or not, Trump is one of the most authentic people, because when we see authenticity, we think about authenticity as something positive, right? Authenticity is just saying, be who you are. And unfortunately, Trump may or may not be a good leader. I don't want to offend anybody because I don't know where anybody leans. But Trump is so authentic because he speaks his truth. And unfortunately or unfortunately, there are people that believe in that truth. So when you step into your authenticity, there are people that are going to connect with you or not connect with you. It's all about you being who you are authentically and finding the right opportunities that fit your brand. If you pretend to create a brand that is not authentic because you want to copy a Kim Kardashian brand, but you're not really a Kim Kardashian, then there's trouble, because now that you're positioning yourself as a Kim Kardashian, and that's just an example, now that you're positioning yourself in that light, it's not sustainable in the long run. It starts to affect you mentally because that is not who you are. But when you turn up in yourself authentically and you polish your authenticity to really reflect who you are on the inside, that is who you are. You could have gotten 2 speakers on the call today talking about change leadership, but I promise you that how I speak about change leadership is going to be very different about how somebody else speaks about change leadership and how the next person speaks about change leadership. And some people will connect with this person right here, some people will connect with me, and some people will connect with the other person. So there's always a market for who you are and what you are, but you just have to take control of your brand. You need to step up with it. You need to be intentional about it, and you need to be authentic about it, because what authenticity gives you is long-term sustainability. Because when you're not authentic, the opposite of that is pretending to be who you're not. So a couple of things that I want you to go away with today is being proactive, responsive, and adaptable to change. And I cannot tell you what's important in your industry. Only you can tell me what's important in your industry, and you need to go out there and find out what it is. You need to realize that your personal brand is very critical, because it is what you uniquely bring to the table that nobody else can bring to the table. It is why they will hire you above the next person. So be intentional about your personal brand. Be intentional about the skills you're developing. Be intentional about how you're positioning yourself. Develop your change leadership skills. There's an article out there I have. If you should search being a change leader, what is change leadership or change leadership defined, it has a list of all of the change leadership skills out there. And I can always share with you if you want. I have free resources there. And actually, if you go to the website, which is this link, which is www.oliveblue.com/resources, if you scroll to the very bottom of the page, there's an assessment there where you can assess your change leadership skills, and it can give you a rating to tell you where you are as a change leader. So check that out. Go to that link, scroll all the way to the bottom, and you will see a short quiz there. It's fun, it's exciting. I love quizzes personally, so I developed that quiz. But it helps you, assess your change leadership skills. If any of these apply to you, mostly I find these resources I have here are more applicable to people who may be already leading and driving change in their organizations. But I know we have some people here like Sandra, was it Sandra or Sandra? Let me just look through it. Sandra, yes, it was Sandra. Sandra mentioned that she was leading a nonprofit organization, and so even if you're having to lead without leading change without position or title. So I think this resource may be very valuable to you, Sandra. Maybe something like managing resistance to change when you're working with people or leading an uncertain time. All of these resources are free, and you can go check them out on that link. But by all means, take the test to help you assess where you are in your change leadership skills. And you can always connect with me. I have a free change leadership community. I'm not very active there, but I am active there when people ask questions. But it's on Facebook, so you can check it out. I'm on social media. I share tips regularly on social media. By all means, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm connected with Miriam on LinkedIn. I think that's how we met, Miriam, right? LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn. And I share tips across board. So tell me, what are your questions? I know we have like 3 minutes, but hey, tell me what your questions are. Does anybody have any question for me? I see Janine said, this is great. Would love to learn more about critical thinking and emotional intelligence. And Janine, that's awesome. There's so much information on Google. That's what I love about Google. Just type it in. You can learn about it. I do have a course that I provide. It's a course on change leadership. So if you're really into change leadership, want to get your organization to pay for it, or you can pay for it yourself, there's a course I have on there on change leadership. I'll share some resources with you guys. But if you just need some additional resources, by all means, just drop me an email at Yvonne@oliveblue.com, or just connect with me on LinkedIn and ask me for more resources. There's always, I like that Miriam said, there's always a market for who you are, your authenticity, for sure. Unicity, for sure. And Sandra, thanks for your comment. Is there any question for me? Are we good? Have we covered everything? Let me stop sharing there. Any questions for me? We're good? Okay. Miriama, I will hand over to you now.
Okay, thank you so much, Yvonne. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for all the knowledge. For this webinar is so rich. It's really a quality knowledge, a quality information that we need nowadays in this new era. And I'm pretty sure that we will apply everything that we have, we have learned today. I took many, many notes, and thank you so much. And this is not the final. I know that we will, embark in your other programs that you have, because I was like, change leadership, there is a lot to learn. There is there is a lot of great information actually. So I'm like, okay, we are going to embark in another program surely that you have.
Yeah.
That you mentioned.
Yes, and there's this I have this thing, and I'm going to put the link in here. Okay. Just so for people that are here. So if anybody doesn't mind a few more minutes, let me just add this link. You can go there. It's a free master class where I really talk about how change leadership has really helped my career in terms of the promotions I've gotten, how I've stood out in the organization. And it's really about how to be a change leader in your industry. Sometimes it seems about change leadership's airy-fairy to some people, but I promise you that it can help you stand out in your career. When I think about all the promotions I've gotten, sure, how I've been able to stand out, have my own business, lead and drive change. And, you know, I'm an immigrant also in a place like Canada, and I lived in England. And, you know, when you don't even have the connections, because people say network, and networking is good, but I've always said to people, I don't have, as an immigrant, I didn't have people opening doors for me in the country where I was new to. I didn't go to university with some of these people. So it was having those change leadership skills that was able to help me stand out, create visibility, and put a light on me that it just opened doors for me. It opened doors. It literally opened doors. Another reason why I'm just so passionate about this, to say, you may not have a sponsor opening doors and smashing tables for you, but how you stand out and differentiate yourself will open those doors for you. So I've put in the link there where people can, it's a free masterclass. You can definitely check it out, and and even once you register, it will send you free resources as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, thank you so much. And for everyone that has been joining us, I've seen Georgina Babli, I've seen Karen, and some other person. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you love it. And there is a link for the information that Yvonne just provided. If anyone wants to take the Change Leadership Accelerator program, you can click on the link, share with anyone, any leaders who needs to learn the skills. You can share in your network.
Yeah, and that link is free. So like I said, that masterclass is a free masterclass. So by all means, you know, it's not the main program. So
absolutely, absolutely. I will definitely subscribe, and I hope to learn more again. And I really thank everyone. I don't know, there is no question at this point. So I don't know if Yvonne has a last word to say, or if there is anything.
I'm good. I think I've said it all. You've listened to me for 1 hour, so I think I've said everything all, you know. So thank you so much, Mariama, for having me. I hope I've been able to share with you guys this afternoon, and wishing you all the best in your careers. And I hope I answered some of your questions, and feel free to connect with me and ask me any more questions you may have. I'm more than happy to support you guys.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So thank you, Yvonne, and we will connect soon for sure. Thank you, and thank everyone too. And if this is something that you like, if you like this type of session, please feel free to send us an email at info@womenofimpactorganization.com. And if you have any suggestion, any tips, or anything that you want to share regarding this type of webinars that we are holding, just feel free to send us your review, what you think, and what is the next subject you want us to bring on the table for the next session. So thank you so much. Thank you, Georgina. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, everyone. And our meeting is ending. So, and I will see you all next time in our next webinar next month, hopefully. So,
thanks, Mariama. Thanks, WIO and Yvonne.
Have a good one.
Thank you all.